Here on the Check Pro radio show, we get all kinds of questions from you, the listener to the radio program. I've got Kevin Lips joining me from Lips Electric. He is our expert today on the radio program. How you doing, Kevin?
I am doing well, Jim. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy being on the podcast.
And it's so great to have you here as our expert. Question: do I need to upgrade my wiring? And this is, of course, a broad question. Let me take a couple stabs before you get into this. I'm going to suggest to the people listening and watching, if you have a home that's older than 30 years, you may want to have it looked at for sure. If it's older than that, definitely if your home hasn't been rewired. Is that fair to say?
That's very fair. Yes. Yeah. I know anything that was built before 1980s, there are chances that it may still have aluminum wiring. And
Oh.
even before that, you go back to the 60s and or really the 1880s and the 1940s, knob and tube is the
Mhm.
old wiring method.
So, I've said this to you before. I've lived in homes that have had knob and tube, the old glass fuses, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I
They're
I grew
still
up
there.
I grew up in an old part of the country, and yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, it was getting old, and now
Yeah. Yeah,
and people who
we're in the Cincinnati area, and there is a lot of aluminum wiring here, and knob and tube is very apparent as well.
and aluminum was a mistake.
Mm,
They didn't know that at the time. A number of homes over a period of time had, aluminum wiring installed. Uh, Tell me a little bit about the problem with aluminum. Doesn't it cause
yeah,
heat?
it does, and I think the biggest thing to know about aluminum, overall, like, all the overhead utilities, they use aluminum. The wire that connects to your home and runs down into your panel, that's aluminum.
Mm,
That's safe. It's fine. It's designed for that. The risk is the aluminum wiring that runs through your walls and runs to your outlets and runs to the switches. That was the mistake, and the biggest problem with aluminum is it expands and contracts. And that expanding, that contracting, when it's hooked up to a screw on a outlet or a
mhm.
switch, and when that screw's not designed for aluminum, because there are some that outlets which they don't really sell anymore, you're not supposed to use them, but you can put aluminum wiring on that specific one, and it won't cause this issue. But if it's on the general outlet and switches that have been installed forever, they're made for copper. So that aluminum expands, contracts, it just loosens that screw. And when you have a loose connection, it causes sparking, which can eventually lead to melting and then even bigger risk of fire and safety issues.
I know what copper wire looks like. If I'm looking at my wire and it's aluminum, does it look like aluminum, more of a silver color? How do I know I have
100%.
aluminum?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. It's silver. And you can tell when you look at it. And part of the, like, what it depends on how the wires come into your panel, but a lot of panels that are off the wall, you can see the wires coming in. If you're not seeing like white Romex, which is
Mhm.
more like a rubber material,
Yeah.
and even newer wires, the code requires all the wires, so different sizing has different colors. There's yellow, there's pink, there's orange, there's white. If you don't see those colors on the wire, it tells you instantly your wiring is older. And a lot of the aluminum in the knob and tube has like a real black cloth over
Cloth.
it. And
Mhm.
as soon as you see that cloth, you know it's gonna be older stuff.
It is. That cloth reminds me of burlap. Maybe it is burlap. It's like a
Yeah.
burlap sack, right?
Yes, yes.
And I would imagine, today, anyone who has that, it really must be degrading. Once again, when I was younger in these older homes, that's what we had, and it looked like it was pretty fragile at that time.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, but overall, I mean, it's really the knob and tube side wasn't a bad choice for what they had at the time. The biggest risk with knob and tube is where it's exposed. So if you have an
Mhm,
unfinished basement or an attic space where people can move around in it, if that wall gets touched, that wire gets touched, it can
mhm.
damage that cloth. And that's when the bigger risk comes. Now, do I recommend keeping any of it? No, but I recommend to at least clean up the basement with and rewire the basement, rewire the attics at a minimum. But knob and tube doesn't have any grounding. So if you know you have knob and tube in there, Grounding protects your appliances. It protects people too, but it protects your appliances. So if there's an issue with that appliance, it's not gonna be protected.
And you can go through an older home, remove the older wiring, and install new wiring, correct?
Yes, 100%. Yep.
Yep. And that is certainly a great investment. I would think over the past 100 years, we have learned in the electrical world what we need. My point is chances are the wire going into your home today will be good for the next 100 years.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, even if your wiring technically is legal to how it is today for knob and tube and
Mhm.
aluminum, insurance companies won't cover a lot of these homes. Once they know that the aluminum's in there, and they know because home inspectors are starting to be required to tell them, or they'll if they do let you keep it, they'll charge a higher premium. So the insurance piece is a big thing to consider when you're looking into this.
Also, upgrading your service to maybe 200 amps, which wasn't, that's not even big today. It's probably like the bare minimum, I would imagine, but some people have 100 or less service. So, in order to get the new service, you need to put a new panel in, the breakers, and new wiring.
You should. Yes, definitely. But sometimes people will do that step first.
Mhm.
But if you haven't and you can tell that that panel is as old as the home, it's most likely time. Definitely if it has this aluminum or knob and tube wiring in there. But modern devices demand more power. So like you said, 200 amps is that pretty much is the standard around
Mhm.
here. In Cincinnati, a lot of homes we like new constructions home they will put 400 amp size services in there, but those aren't really generally required. 200 amps can take care of almost most single family homes in this city, and we definitely would recommend, especially if you're thinking about high powered appliances for your kitchen or electric vehicle chargers. A lot of people since COVID are putting heaters on their back porches
Yeah.
that have an electrical load, and just that upgrade will allow you to do those things.
Absolutely. It's better to have a little more horsepower when you need it. It's what I tell my family when you get a car, get one that has get up and go when you're merging into traffic, right? You don't want some four cylinder, get the eight cylinder if you can,
Yeah,
or a good six cylinder turbo. Same thing with your electrical system. You don't want
yeah.
those lights to dim. You don't want to have the breakers pop. You want it to just work well.
Yeah,
As
but
always.
you also don't have to upgrade to 200. 100 amp is fine, and we do those all the time for people.
Terrific. So to get all your questions answered, contact Kevin and his team at Lips, and they will help you out. As always, my friend, thank you so much for joining me today here on Check a Pro Radio.
Great, thank you.